Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to use the final duel scene in Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West as a way to understand continuity in film. Leone's films are meditations on violence in media. His goal with cinematography was to highlight the anticipation of violence over the actual violence itself. He often structured his climactic scenes around duels built upon personal history and quests for revenge. These scenes often lasted 8 to 10 minutes, and are most notable for their pacing and structure. Leone implicates the audience. We want to see violence, even though we abhor it, and frustrates our desires by constantly stringing along the build-up to the moment, which ends in a flash. At the same time, Leone wants to frame violence as a moment that results from a history. The close-ups and extended takes are meant to force us into the characters' heads as we build toward the flash of violence that erupts out of their gun barrels. Put simply, these are scenes where very little action happens, but tons of late character development happens. Once Upon a Time in the West is a great example of this. I chose Once Upon a Time in the West's climactic duel between Frank and Harmonica to illustrate continuity, because the scene builds continuity not simply with the editing, but also with the cinematography, mise-en-scène, and sound. The scene opens with a long shot of Frank moving right to left. Two things are important here. First, Frank's right-to-left movement is a kinetic theme in this scene. Everything that happens between the two men moves in this direction. Second, Frank stands alone at the outset of this scene, but Harmonica moves into the frame as the shot progresses. Leone uses closed framing here to indicate the ways in which Frank is trapped in his last stand, while Harmonica's open frame illustrates the way he is able to traverse boundaries throughout the film. The cut from Harmonica's close shot to Frank's close shot and back again is our first instance of continuity editing. Here, Leone maintains continuity by keeping both characters on the same side of the screen. Harmonica is on the right, Frank is on the left. Leone pulls back from a close shot of Harmonica to an establishing shot of the duel area as both men continue moving right to left. The next cut, to a long shot, establishes the distance between the characters while also highlighting the landscape for the first time in this scene. Frank drops his jacket, forcing viewers to pay attention to clothing. Contrasted against the light browns and oranges of the landscape, Frank's sleek black outfit harkens to an industrial modernity. This makes sense given that Frank's entire story was based around running railroad tracks through settlers' land. Meanwhile, Harmonica's tan and orange ensemble aligns him with the landscape, with nature, and with the pre-industrial purity. As Frank moves right to left again, you'll notice that Leone mimics the same movement for Harmonica, even though Charles Bronson stands completely still. He maintains the continuous movement through the editing of this shot until Frank finally finds his place and stops. Harmonica's movement towards Frank closes the large distance between the characters, indicating that for him, this duel is more intimate, more personal. This left-to-right movement indicates a break in the continuity, telling us that the first part of the scene is over. The second part of this scene is the big reveal of the movie. We finally learn why Harmonica wants revenge on Frank. Leone's presentation is what makes this my favorite scene in cinema history. He offers us the entire story without words. With a slow pull into Harmonica's face, Leone solves the problem of continuity. He indicates to us that we are about to enter into Harmonica's mind by forcing us into his eyes. We have seen flashes of this memory before, but only now does Leone reveal that the shadowy man walking up is a younger Frank. Revealing a younger Frank is only part of the drama of this scene, however, as Leone also needs to indicate to viewers that Harmonica is part of this past event. He again uses a slow pull in on Bronson's face until we come to his eyes. Leone edits this into a match cut of Frank's eyes as he jams the instrument into young Harmonica's mouth. The slow crane pull finally reveals all the ways in which Frank has victimized Harmonica in the past. Sound is incredibly important in this past sequence, both for the way it's used and the moments of silence. As I mentioned earlier, Leone removes all but a few lines of dialogue and forces us to understand this scene just through visuals and music. The music itself takes an odd turn once Frank stuffs the harmonica into his mouth. Suddenly, the non-diegetic harmonica sounds that play through Ennio Morricone's soundtrack become diegetic, as Harmonica struggles to hold his brother, or father, up are audible through shrill, amelodic gusts from the instrument. As the scene builds toward its climax, notice how the pacing between the edits quickens. Earlier in this scene, Leone gave us many 10-plus second shots. Now, he flashes between close-ups of everyone's faces in fractions of a second. His pacing shifts allows him to build tension along with the music. Leone's choice to remove the audio of the brother or father's speech is an odd one, but it fits within the visual continuity he's trying to build. He does not want us to get distracted by the sounds of this scene. He only wants us focused on his ability to tell this story cinematically. The final shot of the memory sequence breaks from the quick edit continuity that preceded it and instead shows a young harmonica falling in slow motion. The drawing out of the time of this moment forces us to acknowledge that this is the heaviest moment of the memory as harmonica lingers on his fall, his failure to save his brother or father. And then, before the dust can settle, the duel is over. Leone's obsession with violence was not with depicting it graphically or realistically, but instead in chronicling the moments that force people into violent situations. The violence itself is but a flash in the pan, a quick moment of destruction meant to cleanse Harmonica of his troubled past. The continuity Leone builds throughout this scene is based around his desire to communicate this information to the audience visually, and forcing us to confront our own desires to witness violence by withholding that moment of sweet release for over 6 minutes. The unrewarding half-second of gunfire is a commentary on the redemptive potential of revenge. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.